Don, do we have the information on the pasture?
It's on,
Okay, okay.
um,
I didn't look.
here's another one I just filled in. One thing about the executive session. It's really all the same. Yeah, his name is right.
Pastor John Terrell, all of Missionary Baptist Church.
Uh-huh.
Here in Terrell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I heard him talking about something about Saturday.
What? Well, you'll have, well, have to ask Melanie. It's
I'm
her
just gonna put
pastor.
what you wrote. I'm not gonna add anything to it.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Derek? Mr. Derek, how you doing, man? Come on up here.
I added two. It's the minutes.
How you doing, sir?
Good, and you?
I'm doing
Are you gonna,
Well,
say anything?
I don't know.
well, because Elmira added in relocations also.
What I'm trying to do is get you
Just don't say the page. Just tell me what you want to see.
so when we get ready to take a picture, you can hold.
Hey, you doing all right? I am, and you? Good, good. You know, last week I
What's going on, Councilman? Beautiful weather.
Sure, we were all back.
Oh, okay.
When you called, so anyway.
Yeah, no, I thought so too. I was like, it's dinner time, getting ready.
Is Mount Olive, is it here in Terrell? Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's right off of.
Rick was asking me, and I
Okay.
said, I think so.
Yes.
So, okay.
Ronnie, after we do the Burnett proclamation, we're all going to take a picture.
How are you? Good. How are you? Good. How are you, Frank?
Nope.
I saw you at the auction the other night.
What?
I saw you too. I was
Not from
walking
here.
the other way.
No.
I meant to come holler at you, but I was, it was so hot and I was trying
Oh my gosh.
to get my stuff and get out of there.
And I was working in accounting, so.
Well, I thought that girl was awfully young,
Oh, yeah, I'm
you know,
glad you asked.
but I wasn't sure.
I just assumed she was a young
It
mom.
was hot.
Oh, yeah, well,
Mama, that
Oh, I would rather be cold.
you melt the other side?
hey,
Yeah, we were back in that corner, and just there was no air moving at all in accounting.
Oh, yeah. Whoever brought that fan, that helped a
Oh,
lot.
I was thankful for that.
That was wonderful. I was like, I'm just gonna stand or go in the bathroom where the air
I
conditioning
know,
was.
I felt like just staying in there. It felt so nice, and there was, I mean, the whole back of my neck was just wet.
Sure.
I didn't, you know, I had just washed my hair and curled it and all that, and I just put it up. No, I just put it up. I was like, I can't, my back of my neck was just,
Oh, mine too. And I didn't have, I usually carry a scrunchie.
I
I didn't have one with me.
Because I was like, this is miserable.
And I had worn, like, for some reason I was thinking I was cool the year before. And so I wore a sleeveless shirt with a light sweater. Took that sweater off.
I wouldn't do anything.
It was the hottest day of the whole week. It had been nice, you know.
Yeah. I just didn't
And then the next
expect
day
it.
it was in the 70s.
And then look at where we are today compared to Saturday.
It's crazy.
It's supposed to freeze tonight.
Is it really?
There's a freeze. There's a freeze warning out. Yeah. I get alerts on my phone anytime there's any kind of crazy weather thing like that.
Running behind his wife in Walmart. I said, I now see who's in control.
easy. I hope it wouldn't do bad.
It's always by here.
Allison.
No, I was on a mission of mercy.
Okay.
Suzanne was having me move all the plants in under the
I know, that's right.
What I tell you.
I was doing a honeydew.
He said it. He said it.
Yes, sir. I can spot him.
Y'all's honeydew is more like, honey, do you really want me to do?
He's my security detail and I can.
I tell you, as I was headed in, I was listening to Jackson Brown saying, "Running on empty." That was me. Running on empty.
At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting. Before we begin, would everyone please turn off their cell phone devices?
I just did.
And silence them, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I did.
Back on. Google. Eternal Life Quotes Bible. Google search. Flip view.
They can embarrass you sometimes. I'd be careful. I'd at least turn the volume down.
I was
Volume
trying.
set to 78%.
All right.
I want to let the audience know that the mayor is allowed to use his gavel to destroy a cell phone, so very serious matter.
I could tell a very funny story when Henry Madrick was mayor, and I was sitting down where Andrea is as a representative of District 5, and the computers were just now coming out, and I had Lee Schaefer, a good friend of mine, who sat to the left of the mayor, and he had gone and played with my computer before the meeting so that when I pressed the first button, it sounded like Star Wars. And Mayor Madrick couldn't figure out where that sound was coming. I didn't know either. I was just sitting there. And by the time I figured out it was mine that was doing it, and Lee's over there laughing, it was quite the show. All right, here we go. At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, October the 18th of 2022 at the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have present with us today council members from District 2, Grady Simpson, District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem, District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and District 5, Andrea Reese. For invocation tonight, we have a special guest, and before we move on that, I think our District 3 representative would like to do an intro for this individual.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to ask Pastor John Strong to come up to the podium for invocation. And I certainly I would like for all of us to welcome Pastor Strong and his First Lady, Miss Julie Strong, who as of August of 2022 have now been installed at Mount Olive church here in Terrell off of Highway 34. I really appreciate them having me for service recently and Bible study Sunday school as well here recently. And if you have not made it to service yet, I highly encourage you to do so. And he recently also found out that we won't give him a hard time because he lives in Seagoville and not in Terrell. But he recently had the opportunity to go back to the community that raised him in Arkansas, and we thank him and the Lord for bringing him down our way and supporting our community here. Thank you for having me and being with us today.
So at this time, would everyone please rise for the invocation, remain standing for the pledge of the flags.
Heavenly Father, we come to you, thanking you for all the blessings you've restored upon us. We pray tonight that you will bless everyone here in this place tonight. I thank you, Lord, for another day. Bless the entire staff here. Bless Terrell, Texas as a whole. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. The mayor has the honor of recognizing an individual who has a lot of history with the city of Terrell. We're going to do a proclamation, but before we do that, I want to have Bruce Archer, former mayor of Mesquite. Please raise your hand. Welcome to Terrell. Welcome to the council meeting. We also have school board member Reg Pegram in the audience. Reg, if you'd wave your hand. And we've had several from TISD. If you're from TISD, and Derek, yeah, I see you. It's Tanya Derek. If you would raise your hand, I'm sorry. And if you're with the school district, please raise your hand. Cool, wonderful. Welcome to the city council meeting. And at this time, we'll move forward. The recognition is for an individual who was an educator, who changed a lot of lives, made a lot of difference in many people's lives, and we certainly want to say thank you to his legacy and what he left and what he means to this community. So with that said, I have a proclamation from the office of the mayor of the city of Terrell. It reads, whereas William Henry W.H. Burnett, the son of William and Josephine Burnett, was born in the rural South Prague community in Ellis County on October the 17th of 1872, and whereas he graduated from Waxahachie High School, and whereas he was awarded a scholarship to Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, where he studied teaching, and whereas upon receiving his bachelor's and master's degree, Mr. Burnett returned to Texas, and whereas Mr. Burnett devoted his career to the education of African American children, and whereas in 1901, with a staff of 4 teachers, Mr. Burnett became principal of the first school in a small building on Cottage Street, and whereas Mr. Burnett married Florence Alberta Clemens in 1902, and whereas the school grew and eventually employed 15 teachers before being destroyed by a fire in 1924, and whereas Mr. Burnett led a rally to replace the school, and whereas Mr. Burnett organized the school's first choral group and organized and directed the school's first band, and whereas in 1928 there were 12 graduating seniors, and whereas Mr. Burnett served as principal of the school for 43 years and served as a teacher for 44 years, and whereas the new school was named in his honor in 1932, and whereas Mr. Burnett conducted educational workshops and seminars for teachers throughout the state, And whereas he died on August the 25th of 1944 at the age of 72, and whereas the school continued to carry his name when a new addition was added in 1965, and whereas in 1982 the 22 Marshall Neal Club was instrumental in securing a Texas State historical marker that was erected in his honor, now therefore I, Rick Carmona, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor and on behalf of the Terrell City Council, do hereby proclaim October the 18th of 2022 as W.H. Burnett Day in the city of Terrell, and ask all citizens to join me in recognizing the life of this active civic leader and legacy's educators' contributions to the city of Terrell and to Terrell ISD. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the corporate seal of the city of Terrell, Texas to be affixed this the 18th day of October of 2022. And if you are here to honor Mr. Burnett, if you would please come forward, and we're going to take a group photo at this time. I'd ask the council to join me as well. So these are some cookies. It has the Terrell logo cookie on it, but it also has the Terrell Tiger. And we did it in maroon because that was the color of Burnett High. So there you go, ma'am. Thank you so much. We'd like to give you this. So who all attended Burnett? Raise your hand. Wonderful. Cool. So there's festivities going on throughout the week, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Just the principal right here.
Yes.
So we started off the week honoring at the board meeting with dinner, and of course tomorrow we're doing a special video and version of Wednesdays with Warnock. And then Thursday we are having a huge community event starting at 5 o'clock to 6:30 with student performance and just fun games, refreshments, and everything, and just hopefully some good conversation to honor his namesake. And then Friday, we're having the band lead a parade. Hopefully the roads are blocked. From our school all the way to GWE. And so it's just going to be a fun, action-packed week. The kids are excited about it. They practice their songs. They've made art projects. And I just have to throw in that I am a proud leader of the namesake of our campus. And it's just been such a privilege to be in this place at this time.
Well, good. Let's all gather around so that we can take a photo. Make sure you get into this picture, please.
I think we definitely need Tanya Derrick.
Okay. You're the president of the Burnett? Okay.
Keeping everybody safe.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, don't stand here.
Yes, you are.
Do we have everybody? Hey, can you get
Stephanie, squeeze up
Stephanie?
there.
Can we get up? Do we need to come up?
Squeeze up there,
Come forward a
Stephanie.
little bit. Here we go. Let's go. Let's make sure. There we go. Is that better?
Here we go.
You have to get up on this side. Okay. Can we see everybody?
Barely Andrea, but okay.
That's okay. I don't need to be well seen.
No, that's perfect.
All right, we're ready.
I'm supposed to come to the parade. There, I'm excited.
I'll get out of your way.
I'm gonna be there Friday. I'll be there Friday.
Talk to everybody. Talk to them.
Yeah, I'm all right, perfect.
No, I keep not managing to get that done, man.
You still Houston leave?
I guess he did. I think I saw him. I waved at him, but.
Hey, did Houston Smith leave? All right,
He snuck right out.
But you know what his slogan is? Houston, we have a problem.
yep.
That's what they used to say about you.
Yeah, that's his deal. He's got a picture, man.
Oh, did you say me? Does anyone else have any recognitions or community events? I do want to say to everybody who attended and supported the Terrell Chamber Commerce auction this weekend, thank you for, again, helping them have a successful auction. That helps them fund many things throughout the community for the year. Does anybody else have anything? Andrew? Okay.
I wanted to recognize Halsey Library and Rockwall and Bryn Church of Christ. They're going to host an upcoming trunk or treat on October 31st from 5 to 7. It will be in the yard area of the library and then right across in the parking lot of Rockwall and Bryn. That's right there on College Street after you turn off of Rockwall. There's also going to be many other wonderful trunk or treats, and we'll have our really fun downtown event. The downtown event's going to be October 28th at 5 p.m.
What about the trunk or treat for the church? At what time was that with the school district?
It's at 5, but it's going to be on the 31st.
Okay, all right.
Mayor,
Yes?
so want to remind our community that this Friday at 7:30 we have the TISD homecoming game at 7:30. And unfortunately, my 2007 class reunion did not happen, but we are trying to, we have a couple of my high school graduate members that have pulled something off for this Friday. So class of 2007 will be in the stand, Section E, on Friday as part of our reunion. And then I would encourage you not to go to the bowling section in the film alley on Saturday evening because it will be full with 2007 graduates. So, but definitely feel free to join us at the homecoming game.
Good, yeah. There's a lot of activities going on throughout this homecoming is this Friday, so there's a lot of activities. Yes. Anyone else?
I have one other.
Okay, sure.
This Friday, the Rotary Club is hosting a chili supper at Furlough Middle School from 5 to 7. Tickets are available at the door for $10. The proceeds from this go to benefit the Kaufman County Children's Fund.
Cool, wonderful, thank you. At this time, we'll move on. Do we have any remarks from visitors, Don? All right. Next on the agenda is adoption of the minutes. Discuss and consider minutes from the regular city council meeting on October the 11th of 2022. Council, have you had an opportunity to review those? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the regular city council meetings from October 11, 2022 as presented.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second? Second. So we have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, a second from Grady Simpson District 2 to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is boards and commissions. 7.1, discuss and consider council board responsibilities. This is our City Secretary, Don Stahl.
Mayor and council, in your packet is a list of the City of Terrell boards and commissions, along with the city council member that is over that board. And we do have 2 vacant positions on that, and that was something I think that you were going to talk about with council.
Did we ever, and this is, no, okay,
Selecting who's selected.
yes, okay. So,
Yes.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Don?
I don't have any questions for Don at this time. And I thought, I guess I must have, I gave former council member for District 5 Building and Standards previously at was liaison to that board, and I was getting ready to say that I'd be willing to let go of that board and take on a different board to help with the rotation, but I see that I had already previously done that in the past, and certainly would be open to, for example, rotating the park board.
Okay. Anyone else? Is this, so this one is to discuss and consider council board responsibilities.
Yes.
And really, there's no motion, so it's just up for discussion from us. And what I plan on doing is, on the Park and the Zoning Board of Adjustments, because District 5 is going to be it's a temporary appointment, hold off on those two until the election. And that way, we can have someone on a steady basis. I don't want to have to change that again, so I'm going to delay that for a little bit and move forward on those two. I have a request from Mayrani Velasquez that she may be interested in the park and zoning. Are you done with TERS and planning and zoning? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I was looking to give away building standards, but I see I had already done that before Tim Roy's resigned, that I may be open to swapping the TERS board.
Okay. For building standards?
No, for park.
Park, okay. All right, you know what, let me do some work on that, and then we'll get back. If we could put this back on our next Tuesday, please? Then I'll have
We have a
better
motion
feel.
to postpone that.
Yeah. Okay. Is there a motion on item 7.1 to postpone?
Motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we postpone item 7.1.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, and a second from Mayrani Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem, District 3, to postpone item 7.1 until our next Tuesday meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.2, discuss and consider appointment of tax increment reinvestment zone number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, board and the Power Center Board. This is going to be handled by City Secretary Don Stile.
Yes, Mayor and Council, the TERS number 1, 2, 3, and 4 board roster is in your packet, along with the Power Center Board. When Andrea Reese was appointed to council, she resigned her position on both of those boards, and there is an open position. And in item 7.1, there are quite a few applications that were to be considered for that.
Okay.
And this board is under the oversight of Mayrani Velasquez.
Okay. Mayrani, do you have a motion at this time?
I do have a motion to postpone item 7.2.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Mayrani Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to postpone item 7.2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda, these are discussion items. The first one is to discuss update to financial policy. This will be handled by our city manager, Mike Sims.
So Mayor and Council, we'd like to revisit this once a year. It's been on your agenda a couple of different times. Today it's only on for discussion so that you can take another look at it. I'm going to tell you what's changed since our September or August changes in calendar year 2021. So just again, as overview, it's financial policies, it's debt policies, it's capital expenditure policies, cash handling, purchasing, council travel, staff travel, cell phones, credit cards, unclaimed property. It's a lot of things, and it wraps up with the ethics ordinance to kind of punctuate all of that. There are a handful of editorial and formatting changes that we're going to be working through over the next week or so. So I won't burden you with those because those are all just grammar. I'll get in trouble with the PIO if I say grammatical, and minor changes. But the substantive changes start in on page 84 of the agenda, which is page 49 of the item here. And that's going to be on the council travel policy. We decided to polish this up just a little bit. There have been a lot of changes in what you would refer to as federal per diem numbers and that sort of thing. So on the first page of this, City Council Travel Policy Overview, no changes on the first page of this particular policy. The second page has some updates on the numbers associated with this, and having just gone through this trip to the TML, we know that we see that those numbers are going up, unfortunately, and so we have to be responsive to that. And so that's going to be under the meals item there. And then if you look on the next page, you can see what we've done is we've taken some advice on making sure that we also have some event policies related to that. So this isn't so much our spending, it's attendance at events and how attendance at events is managed. So I'd encourage you to take a look at page 51 on that brand new section D. Really, I think that all of this is under the heading of common sense, but if you don't put it down on paper, then you don't have a policy that you're following. So we're trying to put that in there and make sure that we have that available for your review. And we'll come back, like I said, in a future meeting and ask for your action on that. So you've got plenty of time to sort of review it in detail. If you've got any questions, you just let me know. A couple of further pages in, we've got a FY23 executive organizational chart. We like to report out to you who's in what position doing what, so that's good transparency for us. And you can see here that we're showing our vacancy under the Municipal Development Department. Steve Rogers is managing that operation at this time. And then you can see the addition of Mr. Snap there as a city engineer, so that's a change from previous. And we are including him in this updated organizational chart. So that's good information. We refer to department heads from time to time in this policy, so it's good to show who is a department head. And then the last place where we've got some changes is back over on agenda item page 91. And this is where we've inserted a new optional cellular telephone allowance policy. So we have some language now in our employee handbook on this topic. We didn't carry all of that over, but what we wanted to do was to say, okay, in what cases are we doing stipend? Usually our process has been that we're actually just acquiring the cell phone and paying the monthly bill on the cell phone. We think it'll be more efficient over the course of time to slowly move over to more of an allowance policy, and you can read how this is stated here. Essentially, you've got to do a justification for it. You've got to show that you have a need to be using it in emergency situations and then for regular day-to-day work. We have a lot of employees who aren't necessarily at their desk constantly, and that's good because they're out there serving the public. We want to make sure that they've got access to that cell phone because that's efficiency on a day-to-day basis. There is a set of signatures that are required. That's on the page 57 of the policy, 92 of the agenda packet. And then it's basically saying, okay, you're identifying who it is, what the payment is. The payment will vary based on amount of usage and the type of usage. If you're using it constantly for heavy download of files or you're remote 100% of the time, that number is going to be higher. If you're using it occasionally only for emergency event, obviously that number is going to be lower. So that's the changes this year. We try to keep this fresh all the time, and it is a lot to read and a lot to go through, so we just provide it to you for your review, and we'll bring it back at a future meeting for approval.
Do we have any idea when that might be?
We're going to aim for the first Tuesday in November.
Okay, so on this issue, you know, we should have high standards and policies in place that not only for the council, but for our staff, because we are accountable to the taxpayers, our constituents. I feel like it's a good idea to go ahead and look at what the inflationary pressure has put on some individuals, and you know, we're not a paid board, the council, the mayor, so it shouldn't cost you any money to represent the people either. So we need to make sure that that stipend equals what it truly is today and not what it used to be. On the cell phones, if any of us have ever tried to reach a staff member, then you know the importance of that individual having phone accessible for not only the mayor, but for the council to answer questions. That's a just cost, and however it is that we were able to figure that out, we need to do that. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Mr. Sims on these items? If you would, please take the opportunity to review them and get back with either myself or Mike on any issues that you might need clarification on. Thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is item 8.2, discuss resolution number 2036, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, consenting to the creation of a City of Terrell Municipal Utility District Number 1, which currently lies partly within the the limits of the City of Terrell and partly within the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the City of Terrell, and which will all be annexed into the corporate limits of the City of Terrell prior to creation and existence as an in-city municipal utility district. This is Mr. Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, it's fairly unusual for the city to create a municipal utility district as an in-city MUD would be sort of the nickname of that. This would be our first in-city municipal utility district, and we want to do that because we're pursuing a voluntary annexation of 724 acres of land. This is the one that was sort of the central part of doing TERS number 3. TERS number 3, of course, spans from north of Interstate 20 to south of Los Lomas. And as I've mentioned several times, if you go to the corner of Spur 557 and Los Lomas Boulevard, you can go south on Los Lomas to where there's a little cul-de-sac and you can look over all of this land. That's the 700 acres that we're talking about here. Right now, that's not in the city limits, and if it develops not in the city limits, then we would not benefit from that over the long term. We really wouldn't have any control over the type of development on it. So they are in a different municipal utility district at this time. The plan is that they would leave the existing Los Lomas MUD number 4, and they would instead move into this new municipal utility district number 1 for the City of Terrell, and then we would manage their project cooperatively through that. Still lots of work to be done. They have an EDC agreement they're working on. They've got a tax increment refinance zone agreement they're working on, a development agreement. This has been through the P&Z, so it's already been out in the public about what the land use is. This is the one that's primarily a light industrial and business park development with some retail at Spur 557 and some retail at Interstate 20. And so it's going well. It's moving through its process. Probably the most important thing to mention here is on the next page, if you'll flip over there, Dawn, and that is that it's all, as you can see, Section 2 there, conditioned upon completion of annexation. So this resolution doesn't really kick in until they sign their annexation documents, but we did want to go ahead because we've got a lot of paperwork to do for this development and move this step all the way through the process. So again, it's for discussion today. And municipal utility districts can be very helpful in terms of doing water, sewer, drainage, roads. All of that stuff gets built because there's an entity there to shepherd those forward. So happy to answer any questions about it, and again, it'll come back at a future council meeting for your consideration.
This is a developer's request to the city
Yes, sir.
to form this MUD. And the benefit for the city is that it gives us some leverage on negotiation for the annexation as we move forward. So does everybody understand or have any questions on that end of it?
Yes.
Yes.
Where's the annexation coming from?
The annexation would happen only after we finish a variety of steps. One step was the zoning, another step was this creation of the MUD, and then the next one down the line is going to be the Economic Development Corporation doing the water line issue that we've discussed a couple of times in the past to make sure the water line gets built correctly. And then after that, the tax increment refinance zone has to do a couple of steps. So, you know, we're 4 or 5 steps away from the annexation step.
It's all a process, and hopefully we can have it all timed where it all comes together and we can move forward with the project.
Yeah, my question was just, I know the annexations have to be voluntary. Who is doing the voluntary annexation?
This is, the owner of this piece of land is Anthony Properties. So we have had Mr. Ross Anthony here once or twice over the last couple of years to present various aspects of it. And I was actually going to ask, Dawn, if you could go over to agenda item page 143. So there's some signatures there on the petition, but here's the map. Whoop, there it is. So you can see Interstate 20 down there on the bottom side of this, and then you can see where Sage Hill Parkway, Spur 557, those elements of this, so that little indentation on the top of this, that's the location where that cul-de-sac is. And so that kind of gives you a visual about where that project is. Anthony Property owns not only this 700 acres, but also an adjacent 3,000 acres. And essentially, they're breaking this 700 acres off of their larger land holdings to develop it between Terry Creek and the city limits as a business technology park.
Understood.
This is the advantage of one single landowner is able to make some pretty aggressive decisions and make this move to want to be inside the city limits.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is 8.3, discuss Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation or the PADIC sponsored restroom project. This will be done by our Director of Public Services, Lynn Caldwell.
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's always a blessing to come before you. I want to make sure I acknowledge my support team. I have Ms. Demeter Turner here. She's the project manager for this project, and she's doing a phenomenal job. This is one of those good news items. Thank you, administration. Thank you, PADIC board. Thank you, council. We now have our first modular restroom on the ground. So if we go to the next slide, this is just a quick snapshot of the installation. I'm sorry? I'd love to, if possible. It's really short. It's only a few matter of seconds, if it'll play. So they had to.
Glenn only wants to show the video because he's holding it up himself.
That's right. Yes, yes. No, not at all.
Glenn is very strong.
And thanks to the fire department because they supported us in transitioning that unit into the park. So it's pretty cool to hold the traffic back with the fire department. And they responded immediately. So thanks to those guys as well. It took all of about 30 minutes to get it installed.
And if you're off on that plumbing, you're in trouble.
If you're off on the plumbing, you're in trouble. That's right. So kudos to all what we'll call the new A-team. So
right.
They did a wonderful job of getting everything laid out. And that's the interior and the front photo op. It does have a spout, so if you're a runner or walker, you can fill your larger bottles up. And as you can see, everything in this facility is stainless. There's a water hose reel in the rear in the chase area so that we can pressure wash everything down and sanitize it, pressure wash it, and walk away. Okay, next slide, please. And that's your night vision. We've got front lighting, rear lighting, and we're also adding additional trail lighting so that as you approach the restroom facility, you've got lighting coming from the walking trail. And obviously the tennis court, the swimming pool, there's tons of lighting on that side of the facility as well. Okay, so here's the fun part. We received $245,000 to create this beautiful facility. The actual cost for the facility was $186,707. The prep and ground site work was $34,210. We're doing sidewalk connectivity, which will start next week. If you're on the walking trail / jogging trail at Ben Gill Park, you'll be able to access this facility from your west entrance as well as from the east entrance. So you don't have to run all the way down to the west side of the walkway, so it'll make a little U-connect and you can travel up that corridor. And then again, I talked about the solar lighting. This will be solar lighting approaching the restroom from that walking trail there at Ben Gill Park. The cost savings for this particular project, total cost actually was $241,000, which came in under budget. We saved $43,001. I love to save money or be frugal with the money that we receive. We have a remaining balance in the account, $1,254,983. There is a contingency fund of $400,000 that leaves us $1,663,000 for the remaining restrooms. Now, we did have a PADIC board meeting on Friday. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. And it went awesome. We had several options on the table, and the final end result was, how do we maximize the remaining dollars that are in the account? So with the PADIC board recommendation, obviously, we want to introduce to you what we have on the table, which is the very next slide. Okay, you'll have to follow along. This is after the meeting. The goal was the first restroom that we'll do after completion of the one we just completed is Breezy Hill Park. Our recommendation was that's probably the worst restroom in the city. So we're planning to address that location first. And obviously, one of the things that we found out in our research is there's another company that can do the exact same thing for less money. They've been vetted through and through, and we feel confident that this second bid that you'll see on the right, Coreworth Restrooms, can achieve the same objective. We contacted Odessa, we contacted Carrollton, we contacted other entities. They could not give us any reason to not consider Coreworth. And then we'll circle back, Breezy Hill Park, obviously you're gonna have 2 urinals, 1 stall, 1 men's sink, 3 stalls, 1 sink for the women's side, and all these locations will have petitions in them, and that goes for all of the locations. The cost for public restroom, which is the manufacturer of the first restroom that was installed a few weeks ago, it was $369,223 to install at this location. Keep in mind, there's other things that have to take place with the installation of the restroom. You can't just set it out there and not do some work on your own. So that number incorporates that. Coreworth is $317,000 to get it done through them. Huge number, huge savings. The next location we're recommending is Ben Gill Park Softball Complex. That's the second worst restrooms I'll find in this city, which we would like to eliminate. And as you can see in that location, obviously we'd have to do a demo of the existing facility, which is well warranted. It's past its shelf life. We're looking at a cost of $720,076 if we went with public restroom. If we go with Coreworth, we're looking at $587,906. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but you got to consider we've got to do some infrastructure work. We need to do some utility work, water, sewer, demo the existing facility and prep the site to invite this new structure, modular structure in, and it will have a concession. Next location, I'm sorry, same slide. It gets a little complicated. So we couldn't take $1.6 million and build brand-new restrooms at all of the locations that we have in the city. So we realize and understand that we can make improvements with what we have. We have a center block location there at the soccer field. And if you've gone to the soccer field, that's a solid structure. We can renovate that structure so that it has the same aesthetics and give you the same quality of benefit as the modular restroom. So we're looking at an average cost for the next 3 items. That's going to be Ben Gill Pavilion and Breezy Hill Ben Gill Football Complex. We want to do a remodel with our existing center block facilities. The structures are solid. So we're considering and would like to take advantage of that opportunity. Next one is the baseball complex. Well, as you all know, it would be unreasonable to demo the existing baseball complex, concession, and restroom. We cannot get a modular unit in that area unless we tore down a complete baseball complex. So the structure of that location is salvageable. We're looking at long-term or in the near future, restructure the restrooms, incorporate that, expand the concession. That'll be a separate project from this down the road, future project. In interim, great concept, great idea. We'll take a modular restroom and place it adjacent to the entrance of the ballpark. So if you get out of your car there in the parking lot and head due west to the baseball complex, we're recommending putting a modular restroom to the north. And it'll also multitask because it'll give you access to a restroom if you have kids at the playground that we renovated last summer, or it's been almost 2 summers now, feels time runs away. But that'll be a huge value, and we can utilize that because if you're in the parking lot, you can access it. If you're at the baseball complex, you can also easily walk down the corridor and take advantage of that facility as well. And so with that, that'll allow us, if we used public restroom, that would cost us $1.9 million. If we use Coreworth restrooms, that would cost us the $1.6 million. And we feel with council support, PADIC board support, we can spend that $1.6 million wisely using this system. It's a mix and match, but it will benefit us long term. Next slide, please. Okay. That's probably the wrong slide, but there's another slide that outlines. Is there another slide after this? No, I guess it didn't make it to you guys. But we laid out next steps. Next steps are going to be to bring this back to the PADIC board on the 24th. Someone help me with my dates?
Yes.
For a recommendation, and as well as if the PADIC board approves, we'd like to come back, right back to council and ask for approval on the 25th of October. With that in mind, obviously that means if we can get all those approvals, then we can hit the ground running. And I'll open up for questions, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, I'll just kind of throw in here at the end of the presentation. Great job by Glenn and his team on this to make this happen. We've had several folks go out and tour that new restroom. I think it's the quality standard that we're looking for, so we can be proud of the restrooms that are out there. But I also have to thank voters, because remember, the PADIC board is our Park and Downtown Improvement Corporation. That is a slice of our sales tax. We had an election several years ago where we wanted to dedicate those funds to capital improvements in the park and in downtown. And one of the decisions by the PADIC Board of Directors was to go this direction and update all the restrooms at all of the parks. And this is just staff's attempt to kind of keep up with that policy goal from the PADIC Board, and that really the voters brought us. So great thanks to everybody in the community who raised their hand and say, yeah, let's focus some of our sales tax dollars strictly on those improvements.
Great, thank you, Mike. So I got a question. At Breezy Hill,
Yes, sir.
the bathrooms, the existing bathrooms that are in the building, what are we doing with those?
Our goal is they go away.
Well,
They are not salvageable. So we're going to encapsulate that space into our current concession/kitchen, which needs to be improved in a future project. So those restrooms will be closed because they shouldn't, they will be closed. I'll leave it at that.
so then that will give us more room for the the little community center that we have there.
That's correct.
Expand that, make it better?
We
Okay,
can
good on
improve that. That's
Now,
correct.
then, the other question I have are there any cameras that are watching these locations? And yes or no?
No, sir, there is not at this particular
Do
time.
we have a cost on what that would be?
We do have costs for cameras in the adjacent area. I'll need to get that updated. Once upon a time, there were cameras at the parks, and I think if we just give them a little TLC, we can bring those back to life. We'll just have to find out.
Yeah, I think probably we're gonna need some new technology for the camera systems that are gonna be, if they're gonna give us, data that we can
Mayor,
use.
that's a great comment on technology. Glenn, would you also go through the locking technology that we discussed having out at these?
Yes, sir. So one of the goals we're looking at is long-term, we want the latitude and flexibility to be able to control the opening and closing of the restrooms just by a click of a cell phone. So we are going to have the smart technology. Phase one, I'll call it. It's gonna be phase one so that the doors will have mag locks. They'll be on a timer so that we can set the times and control when those restrooms are open or closed. And our goal is if the restrooms are, people like to put little wedges in the door, and we're gonna love to have an opportunity to be able to manage that as well. If that door is open or ajar, we need to know that so we can send someone out to secure the door during those lock and time periods. That's our long-term goal.
Yeah, I like the idea of being locked, but if you don't have cameras, it serves two purposes, right? Once, if somebody's gonna, break into it, you need to know that. You need to have some kind of camera system that would catch that. Graffiti's another one for the camera system, if you got people out there that are being destructive. Just a thought, and if you can get us a cost, and that way we can, talk amongst ourselves and figure out if that's something that we could do. Or maybe
Love to.
PADIC,
Love to.
I don't know. I don't know what that cost is,
Yes, sir.
but we certainly need to have that and look at it.
We can absolutely
All right.
do that research.
Does anybody have any comments or questions for Glenn?
I have a couple.
Yes.
The Breezer Hill, I always verbalize my concern about the distance that our community members have to walk or move around to get to the bathroom. So this one's gonna be in the same vicinity. And then I've also had concern about just having that one restroom. When you have people in the back playing sand volleyball or whatever, I know we talked about earlier, there may be some contingency funds left that we might can look, locating or putting another bathroom in a different area in the park.
Yes, well, Ms. Councilwoman, in order to complete the current project, it's going to require the 1.6 mil. So that's incorporating the current contingency. The objective right now, as it stands today, we are flexible. Reason being, as far as where we put the current modular restroom, because we can put it wherever we want. So if council has a recommendation, PADIC board has a recommendation, please let us know, and we will definitely look at all of the utilities, all the infrastructure, to make sure we can affordably locate it in a centralized location or a more equitable location.
Another thing, was there a slide missing? You said something about October the 25th.
Yes, ma'am. The very last slide just had a different layout for next steps, and it included the meeting on the 24th with the PADIC board, as well as the meeting on the 25th with council, and then the next steps after that, either spring or fall or winter. Our goal is to come back to council for final approval for bids and contracts and so forth.
Would you be comfortable sharing that with me or us?
Yes, ma'am.
Later, even if it's
Oh,
email
yes,
or
ma'am.
other form?
We'll send it tonight, no question.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Next,
And I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
go, Mike, what do you,
I was just going to say, I want to clarify what Glenn said there. We're hoping and we think that the PADIC board will do a vote to make a recommendation on the 24th of October. And that will, we hope, turn around into an opportunity for council to consider the PADIC board recommendation and vote on the PADIC board recommendation on your October the 25th meeting. That's our goal, and hopefully we'll get to that point.
Glenn, I do have follow-up questions as well. want to do a rundown. So at Breezy Hill, Breezy Hill, one modular restroom that is included in the package. Ben Gill Park has has one addition, so has one modular restroom. We're looking to add a second modular restroom, replace existing restroom with modular restroom at softball complex. And then we're looking to rehab Ben Gill Park soccer field and Ben Gill football field as well. And then the pavilion area, we're looking to rehab that as well. So there's a couple of bathrooms that we're certainly going to looking to enhance or replace at this time. What is the plan for Stallings and the Kings Creek parks in terms of the bathrooms?
That's beautiful. One of the things that will be discussed at the next PADIC board is moving forward or layout for those particular parks. We've already done our due diligence. We know exactly what they're going to cost. We have that information. We have the floor plans. We were just waiting for the opportunity to bring that forward because in the original plan for restrooms, those locations were not proposed. So that's future conversations going to be held.
There's a quartet of locations, which would be if we move from the idea of replacing current restrooms, of which there were 7 originally to replace or upgrade. That's what the first goal was. The second goal would be, okay, where could you put additional park restrooms? And there are 4 potential locations. One of them was mentioned by Councilwoman Thomas, which is a second one at Breezy Hill. You mentioned 2 others, Kings Creek and Stallings. And then the 4th, of course, would be Arley White, where we've also had discussion and community input about, well, hey, great park, happy to be there, but gosh, it really would be nice to also have a restroom. And so I think those are the 4 that will get some PADIC board conversation next. But what we're talking about now is that $1.6 million Glenn mentioned, that's an existing borrowing where we've already borrowed the money, it's sitting in the bank, and we want to go ahead and get that spent out in order to afford the 4 additional restrooms or some number of them, right, whatever council and the PADIC board would want. We would have to go borrow additional dollars to make that happen. That's just a budget constraint we're under.
For Kings Creek, now we have a grant we're applying for. Is the bathroom a part of that grant opportunity, or do the grants not accept bathrooms, paying for bathrooms as part of a park
The
plan?
plan is to have the restroom incorporated into the grant application. Yes.
Into the grant application. So the hope is that we receive that grant opportunity for Kings Creek Park. If not, then I certainly will be asking, council to support me in improvements at Kings Creek. Stallings Park, there's work that still needs to be done there with the drainage improvements after Temple Street is reconstructed, and we have additional sidewalks there. So I know there's kind of a pause there with Stallings, but I certainly would, my recommendation to staff and to council is to continue to support enhancing all parks. And I certainly heard what our city manager Mike indicated as far as replacing what we already have before adding to the parks that don't have. And at the same time, we did add 1 additional bathroom to Ben Gill Park. So I'm asking for there to be a balance, and we'll be looking forward to recommendations for both Stallings and Kings Creek Park. And I certainly don't want to leave Ben Gill Park. I make my rounds at all the community parks, so certainly would support bathrooms there as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Just this question for Mr. Sims, when it comes to Stallings Park, would it be wise to take care of the drainage there prior to?
Not just wise, absolutely required. Yeah, yeah. So as you know, there's under our Stallings Improvement Fund, we have a limited amount available, but some money available after we do the Temple Street project. First major project under Stallings Improvement Fund will be the Temple Street project that you'll hear about tonight, and that'll be $1.6 million invested on Temple. The second project of the Stallings Improvement Fund is the drainage improvements for Stallings Park, and there's a variety of those that kind of spread out around that community. we basically have to build those in order to make that restroom possible.
Thank you.
Andrea, you have anything? So I did want to add something, Glenn, and I need to address Councilwoman Stephanie Holmes Thomas. I hope that we are in communications with Breezy Hill Organization. Stephanie, do you know if we are, as far as the location of that modular is going to be? We haven't yet?
I can reach out to someone.
Well, I think, Glenn, we need to make sure that that organization is comfortable with the location. Because if they have a recommendation, I'm supportive of it, and I'm sure the rest of the council would be supportive of it, rather than us doing it for them. So if you would, please get with Councilwoman Thomas and see if we can figure out where we need to locate that. I agree, they probably need another one, and as soon as we can find the money and budget, or we certainly need to do that, as well as Ms. Velasquez and her request for her parks. Again, we also need to make sure for the cameras, though, for safety reasons and with children around, if there's a way to figure out some funding for that, we certainly need to look at that. Okay? Anyone else? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Glenn. Next item on the agenda is 9.1, discuss and consider a development agreement for 501 Bradshaw. This is our Senior Director of Capital Projects, Mr. Steve Rogers. I was waiting all week to say that.
You're wrong. I'm sure stayed in the bathroom a long time tonight. Okay. I'm bringing back to you tonight for action, the development agreement for 501 Bradshaw. So before I forget it, Mr. Hernandez is back here. Here he is right here. He's the owner and developer of the property there. He's here showing support for this tonight. I appreciate the information he's been providing Omira and I to help us get through this evening here. So again, this is 501 Bradshaw. It's a 50-foot wide lot, 110-foot deep. He's trying to build under SF6 rules. He would, if he was to get a variance, he would need a rear setback decrease and a small decrease in the building size of the home. That's really what he would be looking for. Other than that, he's meeting all the rest of the rules. He prefers to do this under the development agreement route as opposed to going to the ZBA for a variance. So I went over this, a single-story home. If Dawn would be so kind as to go to the map first, if you don't mind, just to get everybody orientated. This is on Bradshaw between West End and Mineral Wells. It's about halfway in between there, and there's the lot highlighted on here. And then if you'll go a couple more pages in, it's surveyed, and there's a construction plan. There is a front elevation that Mr. Hernandez provided to show you what it looks like. It's a single-story home. And then I believe one more page, and that kind of gives you the layout of it there, the house. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Mayor, we talked about this at length a week or so ago.
Last week, yeah. So
Yes,
does anybody have any new questions for Mr. Rogers? Please direct them to Mr. Rogers.
Yes, Mayor. This property is in my district, and I had the privilege of going out with Mr. Sims to take a look. I guess one of the questions that I do have is, there were some stakes where we were really trying to identify the width of the property, and some of them was kind of knocked down. I don't know whether that was the intent line or whatever, but I do want to say I do like the design. I questioned it greatly at first, but the design looks great. But there's a property that's next door. It might be, as Mr. Sims stated earlier, it might be very difficult to build on the property next door. Who owns that?
It's a separate owner. It's not owned by Mr. Hernandez. It's a separate owner. I'm not sure. We looked it up. We discussed it today, but I don't remember exactly who owns the lot next door. But yeah, And again, this is part of the struggle with infill in older communities. We have a lot of lots like that he wants to build on this lot, and then next door, we don't know what's gonna happen there, but, you know, it may be difficult to build on it for different reasons. It might be another, development agreement or variance situation.
I just like the mayor and the council to consider that moving forward.
Yes, sir.
But I do like the design of the house. I think it'll be a great addition to the community.
Anybody have any more comments for Steve? No comment? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 9.1?
May I make a motion that we approve item 9.1?
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second?
I'm sorry, second. Andrea? So we have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the development agreement for the 501 Bradshaw. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.2, discuss and consider a development agreement for 107 Chapel Street. Again, this is our Senior Director of Capital Projects, Steve Rogers.
We're gonna have to change that. Mayor and council, bring this back to you again as a reminder. This is 107 Chapel. This is on the west side of Chapel between College Mound and Thomas Street. It is a 50-foot wide, 75-foot deep lot. And the variances that would be needed for this would be a front and rear yard setback decrease and a small decrease in the building size of the home. And here's a map that shows the general location of it. And then if you wouldn't mind going there's I'm sorry, Mr. Campos is here tonight. He's the owner and builder of this right here. He's built several houses in Terrell. And this is his lot. He's given you a front elevation and a rear elevation of this. In this drawing here, it's a two-story house. And so it's the same situation. He wants to build this without the variances from ZBA. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
So these questions need to be directed to Mr. Rogers. It's my understanding that he feels like if he changes it to brick, it's going to change the look of the home, and maybe it doesn't match the surrounding homes.
There's a mixture of siding homes and brick homes in Stallings Edition.
Right.
And we generally go with what's the predominant siding in the area.
Okay.
Bobby kind of has a way he does that, and so I think this will fit in with the neighboring homes. It'll look similar to some of the homes that are on Chapel or in that general area right there.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Excuse me. Is this a two-car garage?
It is a one-car garage, I believe.
The zoning at this location is SF6, and
Right.
that's a one-car garage, so that's what is proposed here. The additional thing the developer is offered for us, and which I think is a really important element, is to make sure that instead of just one parking place in front of the garage door, there's actually two parking places on concrete outside. And that's been a problem we've had in a couple of locations in this neighborhood. And so he was kind enough to add that voluntarily to the agreement.
And that's what's shown here and is what's submitted. We have the same thing on both of these where they wanted to accommodate two cars outside the garage, because typically that's what happens, is you clutter up your garage with stuff and park outside, generally speaking.
Why are you looking at the mayor? I didn't know that.
You park outside.
Anyone else? Okay, is there a motion on 9.2?
May I make a motion to approve item 9.2?
Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the development agreement for 107 Chapel Street. Is there any discussion? Hearing
would
none?
like to
Okay.
add that in the neighborhood, there are homes that are two-story that have been built over, 10, 15, maybe 30 years ago. So that was a concern I previously had regarding whether a two-story home would fit in with what's already existing in the neighborhood. There is a two-story home, not a recent build, that's perpendicular diagonally
Right.
across from the home as well. And I do see that we're decreasing the building size of the home.
Okay. Anyone else? So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.3. Discuss and consider amendment number 1 for Ninth to Grace Professional Services Contract. Again, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, bring this to you for action. This is the Ninth to Grace Drainage Project. If you'll go to the map on the second page there, thank you. There's Grace Lane's in the middle of the page, 9th Street's on the left side, and downstream of Grace here is on the right-hand side. So everything's flowing from left to right here. So we identified in our stormwater master plan that the culvert at Grace Lane was undersized and needs to be increased in size. So in order to do that, we've got a problem with drainage at 9th Street at Elizabeth. And so we wanted to improve this drainage area where we didn't have the problem at 9th Street and increase the culvert at Grace Lane. I was gonna try to do this simply and realized after we got into this after a while that I was gonna need to get drainage easements through this whole way in order to make this work right in the long term. And so this amendment to our agreement is for a not to exceed amount of $37,500. It's funded through the Stormwater Fund. And this is an amendment to an existing agreement, our base agreement for design. And Mr. Frank Stevens and Jennifer Rankin are here tonight from Schaumburg and Polk to show support for this project. So what we need to do, Mayor, is we need to get them to, with approval of this item, this will allow them to develop drainage easements. We'll need to go secure those easements, then we can build the project.
Right, and we were briefed on this last Tuesday, and it was brought back to us this Tuesday. Anybody have any comments for Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers, you said the origin of the problem is on 9th and Elizabeth?
The origin of the problem is culvert's too small at Grace Lane, but there's also another indirect problem at 9th and Elizabeth Street. Immediately downstream of 9th Street is it's grown up and it's silted up, and we don't have an easement there. We can't get in to open it up, and so the water ponds on 9th Street. When you drive down through there, water ponds on 9th Street. We need to open it up so it'll flow freely, and if we send more water that way, we're gonna overwhelm the culvert at Grace Lane, so we need to upsize it. And then we can discharge it down on the low end of this, cause it opens up fairly wide right there.
Any more questions for Mr. Rogers? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve item 9.3.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Mayor, do we supposed to include the not to exceed amount?
37.5?
Well, you can't do it on every item we do, but on this one, it is in the contract. It is a not to exceed amount of $37,500. So yes, that would be appropriate on this item.
May I make a readjustment to that?
So we have a motion. You want to amend the motion?
Amend the motion, yes.
So you need,
I'm sorry. We get the city manager to execute a not to exceed agreement, please,
there's an amendment.
on the motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we authorize the city manager.
You're going to amend your motion to include.
May I make a amended motion to include the city manager to negotiate an agreement not to exceed the amount of $37,500.
Okay, so we have an amended motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Grady Simpson, District 2, to include on his motion to amend his motion, and we have a second from Andrea Reese, District 5. Second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes with the unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.4. Discuss and consider amendment number 1 for professional service related to the South Alley. This is our Director of Utilities, Mike McKeska.
Okay, yeah, Mayor and Council, this was discussed last week. This scope of services is again with SPI. They have done the preliminary work, and we discussed last week about the fact we've been working with the railroad and with the Water Development Board on the engineering feasibility report. We're getting very close to actually having written approval from both entities, we believe. So this agreement is to complete final design services, bid the project, and for some construction phase services for the South Alley improvements, water, sewer, and some paving work from Rockwall to just east of Delphine. It's part of the Water Development Board projects, funded through the COs that have been issued in 2020, 2021. So they've been planned as part of the budget, and the negotiated cost and fee is, staff is recommending an amount not to exceed $213,000, $213,700, excuse me, for SPI. And so asking for your approval to authorize the city manager enter into an agreement with SPI on this work. I'll answer any questions.
How long do you think this is going to take to complete the project?
The design work, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you said approximately 6 months to get to a point of bidding the project once they start. We need to be cautious on making sure UP Railroad is good, Union Pacific is good. You know, we can't just jump out there and take off probably. But once we have that, and we think we'll have it soon, approximately 6 months, so we think we'll be bidding it somewhere around April timeframe, give or take. Start construction next summer. The construction will probably, I'm estimating 10 or 12 months. Frank, is that close? So it probably will not be completed until close to the summer, spring or summer of '24, actual total project, okay? It takes a while to unfold.
Any more questions for McKeska? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with Schoenberg and Polk Incorporated regarding the amendment number 1, professional services related to the South Alley for an amount not to exceed $213,700.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I've got a motion. Is there a second? I have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. I have a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to award professional services to SPI in an amount not to exceed $213,700. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous a unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.5, discuss and consider award of improvements on Metro Drive, Jamison Court, and at the American Way Roundabout. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We discussed this last week, but I'll go ahead and recap it again. We opened bids on September 20th for 3 projects. Metro Drive, which is a reconstruction project that the city was funding. Jamison Court, which is a Terrell Economic Development Corporation funded project. in American Way Roundabout, which is, we're gonna assist with funding over a period of time through the Crossroads PID number 2, I believe. Did I get that right? All right. So the total amount on the bid for those 3 projects combined to Estrada Concrete Company is $4,349,478.50. And so the breakout on that is, and that's the base bid. We're not gonna award the alt bid, which was, the remaining section of Metro Drive. We just don't have the money right now. The breakout on the base bid is Metro Drive is a little over $3 million. Jamison's a little over $1 million. That's funded by the TEDC. And then, excuse me, the American Way Roundabout improvements are about $150,000 of that. I do have showing support tonight for this project. His firm did the heavy lifting on this. Is Matt Lucas from Kimley Horn. He's still with us there in the back of the room. So he came to show support for this and help answer any questions if needed tonight. So with that, Mayor, that's our recommendation. This is funded through the 2021 COs that we issued.
We had some discussion on this last Tuesday. Does anybody have any new questions for Mr. Rogers? Does anybody want to hear from Matt Lucas? I'll be happy to ask him to come forward. Nope? All right. Is there a motion on item 9.5?
Motion to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with Estrada Concrete Company LLC for the base bid in an amount not to exceed $4,349,478.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to award the contract for Metro Drive, Jamison Court, and American Way Roundabout in amount not to exceed $4,349,487.50. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Before we move on, I do want to thank Matt for his service to the city and working with us. Good job. We appreciate all your hard work. I know it's difficult sometimes, but thank you. Next item on the agenda is 9.6. Discuss and consider award of Temple Street improvements. Again, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this is Temple Street from just east of the rail spur, adjacent to the Builder's First Source lot between them and El Dorado Chemical. And it'll go to the Mayfield-Runnels intersection and rebuild it. And again, there's a slight realignment of Mayfield Street north of Temple to help create a better intersection to eventually go south from there to develop the remainder of the Stallings addition, which is south of there. This was designed by McManus and Johnson Consulting Engineers. We opened bids same time that we did the Metro to gain an economy of scale, and we have a low bid from Estrada Concrete Company in the amount of $1,663,476. It's going to be funded through the Stallings Improvement Fund. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. I'm glad that we're finally getting some headway on Stallings. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Rogers?
No questions. Excited about all projects in the city of Terrell, but even more excited about this very, very, very overdue project for Temple Street and Temple Street, Stallings Addition neighborhood.
I do also want to add, before somebody asks me, we plan on starting this project next month with the Metro Drive Jamison. Jamison has the highest priority because that's to serve an economic development project. It'll probably be finished in 4 to 6 months, and then we expect the rest of the projects to be finished by next summer, probably around July, August of next summer, all these projects, Temple and Metro Drive.
Wonderful, thanks, Steve.
Steve, I've slept since last
Tuesday?
week. You mentioned the Temple Street project would be finished around summertime, but when did you say it may be started? Is it also
Next month.
okay, so
Next
we'll
month.
also
We
start-
are already, I've had some of Matt's crew and some of McManus Johnson's crew anticipating approval tonight. So we've been asking the contractor to go ahead and get to work and get all the, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of bonding and insurance and contracts, and a lot of things have to be signed and executed to get started with the project. So we've asked them to facilitate those so we get started quicker. And so they're accommodating us, which is a good thing on Estrada's part. That's a good sign that they're ready to go to work. So we anticipate starting in about 30 days, maybe less if we're lucky, before Thanksgiving is the goal.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Rogers? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the city manager to award and enter into a construction agreement with Estrada Concrete Company LLC for the base bid in an amount not to exceed $1,630,476.
That's $1,663,476. I've got there's two different numbers here. Let's get the right number.
I'm so sorry.
I have two different numbers. Yes.
If we go down to the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Don, go back. Thank you. Just pause right there. The additional work, remember, so we had to correct a line item here.
Mm-hmm.
The line item correction takes that from 1630 to 163,476.
Right.
So that would be the, pardon me, I think I didn't have my mic on. The correct number is 1663476.
I just want to make sure. So is there would you like to amend the motion?
Mayor, I move to amend the previous motion to authorizing the city manager to award and enter into a construction agreement with Estrada Concrete Company LLC for the bid in an amount not to exceed $1,663,476.
Okay, so we have amended motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a amended motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, for Estrada Concrete Company. See, I can say it too.
Still can't say as good as.
Yeah, I know I can't. Don't, hey, man, I'm trying. I get an A for effort. In an amount not to exceed $1,663,476. Is there any further discussion amongst council? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.7, discuss and consider amendment number 1 for State Highway 205 utility relocations. Mr. McKeska.
Okay. Mayor and council, on page 241, couldn't see it, is a map that was discussed last week. Shows the lines, the blue and green lines represent water, blue and sewer green, that were part of the original scope that KSA, we negotiated with KSA, and they've been under design for about 5 or 6 months now, doing survey work and some SU work is needed. And they're at about 60% design on that. The pink line is the focus of this amendment, and this came up basically driven by developers, as we talked about. And so we came back to KSA. It made sense to put this into this project and build it in conjunction with the other water and sewer work. There's probably about an estimated 4,000 feet of sewer pipe, and there's probably a total with this additional pink line, that's about 2,800 feet. So there's going to be somewhere around close to 5,000 feet of water main affected in this project. So there's quite a bit of work It's being designed and going to be under construction. So the amount we negotiated with KSA to include any additional SU work, which is investigation of existing utilities to make sure they design around any potential conflicts as needed. That's a contingent item, but it's an amount not to exceed $145,000 as a whole that includes design work, part of the bidding package and preparation of the specs, as well as SU work and in case there's any environmental. It was discussed that this, basically this was part, it wasn't discussed, I failed to mention last week, this is not an unplanned expense, just want you to know, okay? This was part of the budget preparation, the costs were built into the rate model and included in the water and sewer rates, moving forward. So this is not a surprise expense-wise, I just want you to know that. So our request is to authorize the city manager to enter into this agreement with KSA and move forward. I mentioned they are under design. They think they can finish the design and bid it probably pretty close to the same as South Alley. Somewhere around March or April, we'll probably be looking at bidding this project and moving forward, which is required to get out of the TxDOT right-of-way, okay, in conflict with their expansion of right-of-way.
Okay.
So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Does anybody have any new questions for Mr. McCaskill on this project?
Yeah, Mr. McCaskill, is that pink line, is that the 4,000 feet of?
That's about 2,800 feet of 20-inch water main. And it's going to tie into an existing 20-inch, which is the blue line crossing Highway 205. We have to extend that because of the right-of-way. And so when we do those modifications, we'll connect into that and go up and then build a new line up to the north. And then it's a pretty good size project.
Traffic stopper, huh? Traffic delivery.
Maybe. There'll be some large Tonka toys out there, so, yes.
Anyone else? Is there a motion on 9.7?
Motion to authorize the city manager to award and enter into design.
KSA.
So, Mayor, authorize the city manager to award and enter into an agreement with KSA for the amendment number 1 in an amount not to exceed $145,000.
Is there a second? We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and Andrea Reese, District 5, for the city manager to enter an agreement with KSA in an amount not to exceed $145,000. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.8, discuss and consider a construction plat for Spur Estates, lots 1 through 11, being 15.02 acres out of the ML Swing Survey Abstract Number 503, City of Terrell, ETJ, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located on the southeast corner of County Road 243 and Long Spur Lane. This is Mr. Rogers.
Yes, sir. This is a construction plat I bring you that was approved by P&Z at a unanimous 7-0 vote. And it's an ETJ subdivision. It's 15 acres. There's 11 lots. Again, it's off Long Spur Lane. If you'll go to the map, please, ma'am. And it's, thank you, it's on, as you said, County Road 243 at Long Spur Lane. This is, again, the development that's adjacent to it across the road is Long Spur Estates. And so this is called the Spur Estates is what they're calling this. And the owner of the property lives adjacent to it. He's coordinated his efforts with Commissioner Barber and his folks. He's building a simple cul-de-sac street into the subdivision. He's handled drainage, and the drainage easements needed are on the plat and shown, which includes some of the drainage draining downstream onto his adjacent property. So he's platted that as well with their will plat that as well with this. So anyway, that's, I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
Okay. And that was 7-0 approval of P&Z.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Rogers? Hearing none, is there a motion on 9.8?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 9.8.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem, District 3, that we approve the construction plat for Spur Estates. Item 9.8, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous consent of those, a vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property. Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We are now in executive session. Charles, good to see you, former council. green. I'm waiting for red, green. Yeah, you or Andrea, either one.
Right, Clay Cooley Hyundai.
You can call me Clay, but don't call me Ray.
I'm gonna do my presentation.
We are going to re-adjourn into to regular session and discuss any actions on items discussed in executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the city manager to negotiate and the mayor to execute the development agreement for Clay Cooley Hyundai of Terrell as presented.
Is there a second? We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, so Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and Grady, I got tickled. That's about bad. Second from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous consent. We are adjourned.
All right, Mayor?
I'm sorry.